This week on Dig Me Out. With your hosts, Jason Ziat and Tim Minichi.
Jay, we're back again with another episode of Dig Me Out, 90s and aughts rock, thanks to our union on Patreon. Join the union to vote on albums, pick one to discuss with us on the show, get access to our bonus episodes and our private Discord community. Keep the podcast ad-free and make the next episode happen by joining us at digmeoutpodcast.com. And joining us, one of our longtime patrons, our longest patron, probably, I believe, other than me and Jay. Are we patrons, Jay?
Yeah, basically.
We are.
Is the other old timer I can think of would be Dirty Gert. Does Gavin predate Dirty Gert?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, same time, I'd have to look at the emails back from. I have to go back into the Gmail history of our account and see when that all started. But Gavin Reed is back. You've been here a couple times this year with some suggestions. I believe we did Candy Harlots earlier this year.
Yeah, we did. Got some feedback from someone who was in the band too, which was good.
That was true. That was true.
Yep.
And that was for our 80s. Was that our 80s episode or 90s episode?
It was a 90s.
I thought it was an 80s, and I think we did it as a 90s.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is for an aughts slot in our rotation. Will you introduce the band and album that we're going to be checking out that you suggested, Gavin?
Yeah, so today we're going to review the debut album by the band Love Outside Andromeda, and it's a self-titled album from 2004.
How did you discover this band that Jay and I do not know about?
The single Something White and Sigmund would have made it onto Triple J, and that would have been where I heard it first, or maybe one of the local radio stations, as I was in Melbourne at the time, and they're a Melbourne band, so it might have been on one of the Triple R or PBS, but somewhere around there, definitely the radio, put it that way.
And Jay, I'm not speaking out of turn when I say we don't know this record.
I do not. The name sounds kind of familiar, at least the Andromeda part, but that's it.
Well, that's because there was already a band called Andromeda.
Yeah.
And they had to change their name in order to deal with the issues. There was a Swedish band around this time in the late 90s, early 2000s.
And I'm going to admit, like, in reviewing this, I could only remember the Andromeda part. I was like, we're reviewing something about Andromeda? What? Like, going through my Apple Music trying to find it. Like, that's the only part of my brain could recall. The rest of the name, I was like, what is it? Something Andromeda?
Been a big week.
Yeah, they asked, they renamed the band to avoid any confusion with the Swedish band. They formed in 2000. Members are, because they did reform recently, Sienna Lee on vocals and guitar, Jamie Slocum on guitar and bass, or guitar and vocals, and Jesse Lee on bass. And then on drums and gong is Joe Hammond, and Alistair Watts adds cello on this record. I don't know who is drumming currently because Joe Hammond is listed as a past member, but they did reform in 2023 and put out a record in 2024. It's on their Bandcamp page, which you can go to. This album, the self-titled, came out on Shock Records in September of 2004. It made it to number 74 on the Australian chart. And then the follow-up album, Longing Was a Safe Place to Hide, was released in September of 2006, also on Shock Records. Now, they did release a couple of EPs. One, You Mabel, came out in 2001. Something White and Sigmund came out in 2003, prior to the release of this record. And then they did an acoustic demos release in 2019. The band has been together and then broken up a couple times. They were together for the original run 2000 to 2007, and then they got together again in 2019 for some a show like a one-off, and then the release of the EP. And then they got back together again in 2023, and that's when they released the third album, Stella Interrupted, in April of 2024. And what else was there? The song Something White and Sigmund made it to number 65 on the Triple J Hottest 100 of 2003. So I think
Did either of you watch the film clip for that song?
No.
So I've been chatting with people on the Discord about this album for quite a while, and I'm not a film clip guy. I don't watch film clips. Almost never have. So I'd never seen it, and I'd suggested it to our friend Vadim, and he came back and pointed out that at the end of the film clip, the singer Sienna actually gets topless, which was completely out of left field, and doesn't fit. I don't know. I don't really understand why, but it was a strange. So that I went back and watched it, and she does. Yes, it's true.
Well, that's odd.
By film
Very
clip,
odd.
do you mean music video?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, a film clip?
Yeah, sorry, we had different terminology. Yeah, I'm probably getting it wrong because, like I say, we don't. Well, we never had MTV for a long time, and I just don't watch them.
Mm-hmm.
So, is nudity allowed on television in Australia? Like, why would she do that?
I have no answers. Like I say, I didn't even know. I mean, that level of nudity would be. I mean, there's things you get away with if nobody notices. I might have said this before. I think we reviewed Regurgitator at all. I think
yes,
we have. Yeah,
we did. What we did. Unit was the name of the album.
Yeah, so they have a song called Blubber Boy. I don't think it's on that album, and they actually drop a C-bomb in the middle of that song. Actually, it's in the chorus, and that gets played on FM radio because no one notices. It's about an Eskimo lady whose husband dies, so she makes a doll to simulate him out of whale blubber. And the line is, and I won't do it, but the line is, I'm your blubber boy, you should love me. Rub me on your C-bomb and I'll come back again.
Jesus.
And that's on just normal FM radio and no one notices.
That's a hell of a narrative for some lyrics. Holy shit.
I didn't
reaching deep.
realize you could have nudity on YouTube. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked.
They'll allow it to some degree. I think it's more of a you're gonna get demonetized probably, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, not promoted, but you can find it, I'm sure.
Because otherwise I would be like, why wouldn't there be porn all over YouTube if they aren't censoring it? But I guess if they demonetize it
I mean, stuff like, I'm sure there's some line the algorithm is able to pick up, but much like Australia, as long as people don't notice, anything goes.
Well, yeah, I mean, different countries have different, standards.
If your environment is big enough and you can get lost, then I mean, it's kind of, Texas is like that in some ways. Get away with anything.
We posted this up on Patreon. We didn't get any comments on this record, but people did vote on it. So we'll get to the poll at the end of this episode when we share our rating, were the album better EP or decent single. But Jay, I'm going to start with you. What works for you on the self-titled album Love Outside Andromeda?
It's a unique sound for in general, like I was really struck by it has this really unique mix of kind of sweet and salty. So there's aspects of this album, like if you just drop the needle, in random places, the vocal gets very almost like folk rocky, like 90s, like Jewel or Sarah McLachlan or something. And then it builds some heat and really earns like a flip of that to where like she's dropping F-bombs and it gets real angsty. And it does it in a really, I think, fluid way, genuine way. It doesn't feel forced. So you go on this journey with this where, through her voice, I think at first, where it kind of brings you in and things feel sweet and kind of a little light, but maybe the music will be contrasting that a bit with these warm, fuzzy guitars, or maybe a tempo that's kind of pushing things a bit, and it'll build to a moment where, things are getting louder, she gets more aggressive, and then it'll kind of calm back down. There's, this use of dynamics in the band where, they're seem to be trying to contrast each other a lot too, which I think keeps things in this constant tension of never getting too like over the top aggressive or too light. So another example would be, um, there's some moments where, maybe the drums are a little bit more intense and the guitars will be clean and jangly. And then there's other songs where the guitars will be more intense, but if you listen to the drums, they're actually like pretty restrained. They're not just bashing, they're a little like lighter than you would totally expect. So there's this really interesting dynamic going on within the band too, not just with the vocal, where they're kind of like cooling each other off or heating each other up and not like doing the obvious thing all the time. They do the same thing sometimes with rhythm, like a riff will start and the drums will come in and the drums will be like not what you expect. It'll sort of be halftime of what the riff is.
You like the sound of your own voice. I like the sound of my own voice. Turn 19, a monster was spawned. Your career began the year I was born. And I like the sound of your own voice. I know you like the sound of mine. I could put it all together and make up a song. My career began the year you were born. I could try and make you everything you seem to know so much about it. Love doesn't inspire.
There's a lot of cool stuff going on here that, as you listen to the album and start really absorbing it, keeps it in this really, I think, kind of moody space. They're doing a lot with texture. They're doing a lot with, subtle dynamics. But I think at the end, it ends up feeling like really unique. I had a hard time really pinpointing any other band that this sounded like, even though there's nothing about it where you're like, oh damn, that vocal is so different, or that guitar part is so different. Like it's familiar, but it's not exactly like anything else, which I kind of like too. Like it felt comfortable and exciting, like because there's some of the things they're doing here are different, but not like from another planet. It's also a bit timeless. Like it didn't quite. I had a hard time even placing it in 2004. I was like, I guess it could have been 2004, but this also could have been a 90s record. It could have come out now. It really didn't feel of any particular time frame either, which was kind of nice. It had, I guess, a classic kind of sense to it. So that's what worked for me. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this ability to be a little bit kind of softer and like more delicate, but then also flip it and be very aggressive and angsty, and everything in between there. How about you, Tim? What worked?
The juxtaposition of the loud and the soft on this record is really interesting. There are some songs that sound in the vein of almost like a yeah yeah yeahs, with distortion happening that's controlled but messy. And you get like big fuzzy things happening, and then you, like you said, you get like these interesting quieter moments that are almost folky. It's a really unusual ride in that sense, that from song to song they do a lot of, and there's also well, they do a lot of changing, but then there's also a lot of like just weird things happening. Like you said, the drums, I feel like they're messing around with time signatures here and there very subtly. It's not like drawing attention. It's not a progressive rock band trying to like play in 7/8 for, but there are like weird time change things that are happening that are fun if you are, if you catch them, because it's just not a sound that I expect. That she has a really great voice. I am shocked that, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be shocked, but we were paying attention to a lot of music at this time. In 2004, I was digesting as much as I could. Her voice is great. I really wish I had caught it back then. I wish. I don't think this got a US release. I think this was just released. There was no vinyl release of this. It was just a CD release. And Shock Records is not, I don't believe, that big of a label. They're going to be, I don't even know that if they had a lot of American. I mean, I think they did some distribution of some American artists in Australia, but I don't know that their Australian artists made it to the United States. So, point being, like, it's a really interesting record in the sense that it plays around with her voice and how much you can do with it. You can make it kind of punky and spiky. There's actually a song on here. It's the second track on the record, Made of Broken Glass. When she gets to the chorus, she does this hesitation that sounds like Maynard James Keenan.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pick up on that?
Yeah.
She's like, duh.
There was a couple parts in here. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds like Tool. I mean, it's like a lo-fi Tool. Like, it's not that like you were saying, like, it's not as proggy as Tool.
Yeah.
But there's something like, there's definitely like a sense of rhythm here that is at times similar to that.
Yeah, that caught me off guard. Like, I heard that the first time, I was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
That phrasing, like, that's really interesting that she's using that style of phrasing. Again, I would not have, even thought that a band like this, where I mean, from a, big picture view, these aren't like massively complex, weird songs, but when you start to like drill down on them, you go, oh, that's kind of a weird, like you said, the way the drums happening there is kind of weird. They're not using a typical like arrangement for this. It's not a verse chorus verse thing for this song. So there are a lot of like little bits and pieces that make it interesting in unexpected ways. But I think you really have to like give this a couple listens. You might really like it as a listener the first time out. This sound might hit you, but I feel like because it jumps from, like I said, that like loud, fuzzy, post-rockish kind of like thing happening, and then very stripped down, quiet, folky sound. Like, those are two different. Anywhere you drop the needle on this record, you're going to get a kind of a different approach, even though it's pretty cohesive overall.
And I got the yeahs thing too. It's not as like avant-garde, I guess, or like spastic and weird as that band can be. It's pulled back a little bit, but that was one that, for me too, popped as a contemporary that felt familiar.
Yeah. Or like Gonna Try to Be a Girl has like a really big like almost like the Vines
Mhm.
guitar tone.
It's got that garage rock kind of groove
Yeah.
to it.
You keep it straight-laced inside of me. I'll let you fuck with my hair for eternity. I'll keep my head down, wear a wedding gown. Sign suffocated, delivered. I think you should hear her talk inside of my head. It's all her fault inside of my head. You wanna hear her talk? It's all her fault inside of my head, you know.
So I could hear this band being like based on a single getting lumped in with those bands, but if you take the whole record, you know, together, it doesn't really work in that sense.
No,
It's not a garage rock band.
it's not any. It's like touching on all of these different, seemingly disparate genres, but somehow melding it together into one sound, which is not easy to do.
Yeah. So that's what worked for me. Gavin, what worked for you?
You've covered a fair bit of it, but personally, I love this album. But the main thing that works is that vocal, because she does everything. There's the really low, subtle sort of whisper, and there's almost classical style singing there, a lot operatic singing, but she can rock out to like nobody's business as well. And even like on the Gonna Try and Be a Girl, she lets her voice break at one point and, you know, does a squeal or whatever, but she's just an amazing voice. And really could have done anything with that, I think. Like, it's the fact that she's had a solo album since, and she's backing vocals on something else, and there's, you know, the other two albums. But for someone with that strong a voice, you'd think that she would have been in demand and you would have heard more from her. I guess one of the other things I like is this is a debut album, and they have emerged fully formed. The songs aren't like a lot of songs. They feel like musical compositions because they're layered. There's depth to them. You know, they're not just we're a couple of young people and we're having a go and this is what we came up with, which is what a lot of the power pop that we seem to review comes across as, because, you know, they'll be singing about, oh, I'm in my bedroom and I'm playing a guitar, you know, and this is far more nuanced than that. Yeah, there's a lot going on. You guys were talking about some of the time signatures and that, but if you look at the song Something White and Sigmund, in the middle of that, they kind of drop out and they're doing the same vocals or same lyrics and kind of the same timing, but they've dropped her, like they almost phase her vocal into the effect where it sounds like it's coming from a bit further away, like on a phone or something. And then the drumming becomes just the cymbals and hi-hats, and there's an organ playing what would be the guitar part. And then all of a sudden the drums start to come, you get like a growl from the guitar, and then the drums come back in, and it goes back into how the song was previously. But there's this weird little almost shoegazy version of the song inside the song.
Yeah.
Which kind of, when you just listen to it, as in you're not trying to review it, you're kind of listening to it, you don't really notice it, but when you're listening for those things, you go, wow, that's really different. She also does a thing when she repeats verses, which isn't my favorite thing in the world, but when she does the verse for the second time, she just includes the important words. So when she says, I'm going to try to be a girl, and then by the time the second time comes around, she just try to be a girl. And then, you know, and it's like growing up in an ugly fucking world. She just ugly fucking void. Like, she leaves out like the stream of words to get you to the important part, and it gives it a real sort of pop and I guess a bit of angst in there. As far as your references go, so I thought this had a bit of Pretty Girls Make Graves about it, with the higher version and the time signatures. They're not as high up the fire trails as that band is, you know, on the arty side. but it's in that direction. But then sometimes she's also singing a bit like Cat Power.
Yeah.
Even a bit of Skunk and Nancy when she gets angry. But one thing that I thought, re-listening to this, is Courtney Love had America's Sweetheart out in the same year as this. And my God, I reckon her record company and her would have loved to have just bought that Try to Be a Girl, I'm Going to Try to Be a Girl song off them before they released it, in the same way that Natalie Imbruglia bought Torn or whatever it was. Because that would have been the best single off that Courtney Love album. I don't know if you remember that one. There's a side issue on that one. The first single off that was Mono, which is a great fun rock song. But she manages to sing, it's a revenge song. So she manages to sing the line, I slashed his tires, I bled his brakes, which doesn't say a lot about the person who wrote the song, because one of those is a good thing. One of those is very helpful, having your brakes bled. A mechanic does that. But yeah, I felt like because I feel like that's one of their most straight sort of rock songs, and I think that would fit onto that. It could even Pink or someone like that trying to get a real rock thing going could do something like that, which is a more simple version. I think the singing's not only good, the lyrical delivery, but the actual lyrics are good. They're nuanced, they're intelligent. It's very dark and introspective. And I kind of, to describe her voice, if anyone hasn't listened to it, I describe her voice as the voice of a menacing angel, because she's got this beautiful voice, but there's also an undertone of foreboding in it quite often. Just watch out, something's going to happen here. So, yeah, I guess that's what I like about it. Just the fact that so often a first album just isn't as deep. I'll use Silverchair as an Australian example, and again, they're kids. But, the lyrics are pretty bad, and whereas this, you sort of come into it and go, how did this not progress into a band that's 4 albums deep? But, well, they nearly are now again. That's what I liked.
Jay, is there anything that doesn't work for you on the record?
It took me a little while to start to really, I think, grab onto the songwriting. So it's an immediate connection on tone, vibe, like texture, just sound, sonically, performance. But after several listens, I found myself, kind of being a little lost. Where am I at on the record? When I step away, am I remembering like particular hooks or choruses or any little moments on the album? And it took me a while to get there, where I started even to the point of like on a, subsequent listen, when a part would come on and would say, oh yeah, I remember this part. Okay, this sounds familiar. Like it took a little while for this to absorb into my brain. And I think it's just the songs, there's some slow like burns on here too, where things develop. The second half of the record feels a little like several of the songs start with like kind of finger picking, acoustic-y kind of stuff. So the vibe just goes down a bit. The energy goes down. So I think some of that is, adding up to, it just took a bit of an investment to really, for the songs to pay off for me, so that everything then came into place. Like, okay, I got the sound, I'm digging like the vocal performance and what they're doing here. I like the dynamics. It really took me a while to get to the point where it's like, okay, now I'm seeing like the songs and identifying the songs and putting it all together. That's not necessarily a terrible thing. There's a lot of albums that I love that took me on that journey. It might just suffer from a bit of, if you're revisiting this now, and you don't put the time in, you might not kind of get to there. So I think it requires a bit more, time and focus to be put on it to really, I think, absorb what's going on here. Anything not work for you?
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a grower. You have to spend time with this record. And I think a song like Juno is a good example.
I have such trouble letting go. as I rerun and double check what I know. The sonneteer is waiting at the front gate, begging me to open up and change. Now I compose myself for you, reduced to nothing, happen my loneliness is 1,000 times forgiven. You wanna go for pancakes and corsets and covered space, and my loneliness is 1,000 times forgiven.
Juno takes a while to build, and then when it does, it really pays off with this huge back half of the song. It's kind of what this record is like. You kind of have to like wait and go, oh, okay, like get through the record, recognize it's going to be a ride. Now there's some songs like Chameleon is fine. It's in the cat power, I guess, end of things for this, for what you were talking about, Gavin, with being quieter, and I think it's just an acoustic guitar and like a cello maybe on that one, or I think it's that song. Or is it If You Really Want So Little From Me? That's the other one, where I don't like, those are fine. I don't mind quieter songs like that, but it's so unique to hear this setup with the way that they're able to play with noise and then balance it against her voice. That's, I mean, it could easily be like, you know, what you said with regards to, you know, this could be a not a poppier record, but this could have been, some of these songs in terms of melody wise could have been, you know, given over to Courtney Love for an album that she was going to put out. They're that good. They probably would have stripped a little of the life out of them, I'm guessing, with a more polished approach. Not that these songs aren't polished, but there's some like rawness to the sounds of the guitars and that sort of thing. So I think that's what works, is that it's a little bit edgy, but not so much that it's not going to get radio play, which it did get some radio play. I just think you have to spend time with it. And I'm sure there are going to be people that like only like half the record, because half the record is sort of noisy and aggressive and has a garagey kind of feel, as opposed to half the record, which takes more of an introspective, quieter approach, maybe builds songs more, like with Juno. And those are the ones that people are probably going to get like skip. You know, you're going to hear a finger picking acoustic guitar after you've heard a distorted bass, and you're going to be like, I'm going to skip that one. So that's the only thing I can see people getting, I don't know, frustrated with, because it's not a consistent record all the way through. But I think it works as a record. I think it works as a single release because of her voice being so good. So, Gavin, anything doesn't work for you?
Probably echoing what you both said a little bit. For an album that jumps around a bit, they have, with the sequencing, they have left probably 4 or 5 songs on the back half that are quite similar, at least in tone.
Yeah.
And maybe another upbeat tune in the middle of those would have fleshed it out a bit more, like kept the people who are in it for the faster, more upbeat sounds, kept them interested, because you both said that it takes a while to get to. I think the first song so Tongue Like a Tether and Something White and Sigma, I think they're very immediate songs. And often an album with songs like that it's an easy way in for you to listen to the rest of the album, you do wind up liking the rest that you might not have found otherwise. So I think that works. But I do think, I noticed when I was walking, listening to it, and I was like, I got to the end and I thought I was 2 songs from the end, you know, because they'd kind of blended together a little bit there.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of if they wanted to have more success, if they wanted to, push this further and probably into other markets. Obviously, Australia's bias towards Australian acts. They probably needed to they needed to choose their direction. Are they a rock band? Or, they needed to head more towards the Pretty Girls Make Graves thing or more towards the Cat Power thing. Either of those work, or even towards a shoegaze thing, which is kind of what the other two albums they have out are like. And then I think they would have been more successful because people would have gone, okay, I get this. This makes sense to me. I can categorize it and file it over there. And when I want to listen to, angsty woman singing off kilter, I listen to this album, So that would be my only thing with it, is that they kind of, it does get a bit samey in the second half. Samey in that there are a bunch of good songs, but they are similar.
Yeah. Yeah, and what was it? 2004 is when this came out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about what was happening at that time, and I feel like, it would have had to been marketed a certain way for it to make a hit. But there were a lot of bands that were happening in the 2000 to 2005, 2006, where you were getting like a taste of new artists. They weren't necessarily all breaking with full albums that were popular. But actually, the Vines, which I mentioned earlier, like they only had one song that broke in the United States. And it wasn't like, I don't think everybody in the United States knows the Vines, but for like a moment, that was a big song that people who were listening to music, who were, listening to the radio, they knew the Vines. And I feel like if you had maybe gotten the right song with the right video, it would, because obviously the one with boobs isn't going to be on MTV. Because there's still, MTV is still relevant at this point. YouTube hasn't happened yet in 2004, so there's still a need for music videos to some extent. So
a band that's happening in 2004, I'm just kind of like looking at the rock hits of 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Interpol,
yeah, a
little bit, like you could kind of see this being not exactly the same thing, but a lot of it is like new metalish. Linkin Park, Jet is at this time. That's kind of like the garage rock that's happening in 2004. So it's kind of a not great year for this sound. Those are the couple bands that I'm thinking work.
That Interpol and the that sort of dance rock, for lack of a better term, from England that came through around that time.
Yeah, Block Party.
I feel like the style of the songs are aloof to the listener. You know what I mean? Whereas this is completely engaging the listener. So even if they have musical similarities, I think they're approaching your ears from the opposite direction, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I was just trying to figure out if this had a shot in the US, but it still would have been a long uphill battle to get this. Because even like the bands that
girl song would have.
Yeah. But even like I'm trying to think of the artists that would have been similar, and the ones that I'm coming up with, none of them were popular enough to like really break through, that were in like, say, the garage rock sound. Like weren't the Donnas were in this period, but they were more straightforward rock.
Yeah.
Sahara Hot Nights didn't really break through in the United States. Those sorts of bands they just didn't have it.
Those are a lot more straightforward songwriting, like almost hard rock or punk style songwriting.
And Pretty Girls Make Graves, again, also around this area, this time period, a little more punky, a little more more dialed into the emo post rock stuff that was happening. So yeah, it would have been a hard climb to get this noticed in the United States. So it probably made sense that they didn't try to do that. So
yeah, just in general, looking at a lot of this stuff, this is all pretty high energy music too, and this band is a little more, I don't know, restrained, I guess.
Yeah. There's a little bit more complexity with some of the stuff. like I said, the arrangements aren't as typical and that sort of thing. Like, yeah, there are some songs that are straightforward rockers, but some of the stuff has to take some time to build and get to the point. So,
Yep.
What about PJ Harvey then as a reference for that?
I mean, she's kind of on her own island. Every album is different with her, and
Yeah.
I kind of put her in like Nick Cave territory where it's like they're their own thing. They're not even like in the same ballpark as anybody else, or like Beck. Like Beck never, you never know what Beck's gonna do in terms of an album. Is it gonna be some, sad acoustic sea change type thing, or is he gonna go full on pop music, or it's all over the place. So it's like, and there's not really anybody that sounds like that. I think that happens more with solo artists than that can reinvent themselves singularly. I don't think bands get to reinvent themselves as easily as, like, if a band was PJ Harvey, you'd be like, this band is schizophrenic. I guess that would be Primal Scream. But now that I'm thinking about it, Primal Scream is the schizophrenic band that I'm trying to think of.
That almost feels deliberate. Like they're like, what did we do on the last album? Right, what's the opposite of that?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we made a 70s classic rock album. The next one we're going to do is going to be a trippy, a dance oriented record with, and then we're going to do an industrial rock album with political overtones. And just kind of keep doing crazy stuff like that. Okay, let's get into our overall ratings on this. Worthy album, better EP, or decent single? Jay, where do you land?
I'm at a worthy album. I enjoyed digging into this record. I think the vocal is compelling enough. It should be compelling enough, I think, for most people. Especially if you're sort of into, if you're looking for stuff in the 2000s, you're digging around, right? Our mission statement here, trying to find something different, maybe you missed. I think the vocal here is going to keep you locked in long enough to where the other layers are going to reveal themselves and you'll appreciate it. That was my journey with it. I'm still picking up stuff on it that I like. It's just also got a really great tone to it. Like, I love the guitar tones on here. They're very warm, ampy. There's some guitar parts that are really cool and kind of, catch my attention. So there's a lot here to reveal itself. And I think, the vocals are strong enough that most people are, I think, have a chance to stick with it to get there. So worthy album for me. Where you at, Tim?
Same. I think it's a worthy album. I might trim one or two of the acoustic songs because I think there's plenty of slower material that when it's more arranged and built up, I think it's more interesting than just an acoustic guitar. But those would be fine, like, B-sides or non-album tracks or something like that. So it's a worthy album for me. I think this is a cool record that will definitely be in, one of those, when we look back at the Australian records that we were not aware of that have now become interesting documents of our experience doing this podcast. This is going to be one of those where you're like, oh, why didn't I know about this? Oh, because nobody released it here, for one thing, but also it's a really good record that people should check out. So worthy album for me. Gavin?
Well, to nobody's surprise, worthy album for me. From what I can tell, everybody, I don't know anyone who doesn't like this. There's a few people who are sort of indifferent. They're like, oh yeah, that's fine, or people love it. Don't know. I haven't heard anyone say they dislike it. I do have, sometimes when I think it's mainly Tim with this one, but sometimes when you're trying to listen to an album a lot in order to review it, you play it in the car and your wife and daughter hear it and some of their comments. Did anyone get any background commentary on this one? Because I always find that interesting.
I did not listen to this in the car this week because I didn't have anywhere to go with anybody. Because I work from home and my family's at home for the summer. So the only time I had to take my daughter to like dance lesson on Tuesday, or no, on Monday, and then piano on Tuesday, and we didn't listen to this in the car. We were just listening to whatever. We'll get in the car and she'll be like, "Can you put my mix on? Can you put my mix on?" Now it's her rock mix, so it has like, Ghost and that kind of stuff. So it's fine. But I know that some of the stuff I listen to, she has a 30-second rule. If she doesn't like the song, she can skip it. if it's one of my songs. And then she has to find something that she'll actually listen to. But I didn't really get a chance to listen to this beyond like sitting at my desk and putting on headphones and doing it that way. So it didn't get the full Minichi experience this week. Apologies. I should make sure to do that more often so I could get their feedback. I was thinking though, like when I was listening to this, I'm like, because she wants the new Olivia Rodrigo album for her birthday, which is next month. And I'm like, this isn't that. I mean, yeah, it's not Olivia Rodrigo, but like Olivia Rodrigo does some interesting things. Like I wonder what she would think of this. Sometimes I will play her artist and I'm like, this isn't far off from what you listen to with regards to certain artists. Like, she loves Taylor Swift. So I've played her The National. I'm like, these are the guys who are like doing a lot of the work with the music. It's just not the same singer, but there's a lot of like instrumental similarities in some of the later Taylor Swift stuff. But she can't really get beyond Matt Banger's voice. Like he sounds complete opposite of Taylor Swift. She's like, what's a love buzz or a blood love, or what is that song? Not love buzz, blood buzz Ohio is the song that we most recently heard. She's like, this is so weird. He's just saying the same lyrics over and over again. I'm like, well, that's kind of his shtick. He doesn't like write stories like Taylor Swift does. He just kind of like comes up with artistic phrases. And she was not having it. I'm like, but the music's the same. No, not that. So, but like we've talked about, Jane eventually are going to turn over the podcast to our daughters. So that's going to happen at some point. Well, the polls were a little bit different. They went 67% on Patreon for Better EP and 33% for Worthy Album. So a 2-to-1 Better EP in terms of the voting. I'm going to guess that people split on loud versus soft. That's going to be my guess. There were no comments, but that would be my guess, is that people probably went and said, this is a schizophrenic record. It's, it's either 6 songs of loud or 6 songs of quiet. Maybe somebody will comment in our Discord when this episode posts, but no decent singles. So nobody disliked the record. They just didn't like the whole thing, which kind of what you said, Gavin. People don't dislike the album when you play it for them.
Do you know anything about the catalog after this, Gavin? What the band sounds like?
Yeah, I've listened to both the other albums and nothing's really attached to me. The loud element isn't really there. I've listened to them both, but nothing really attached to me, so I haven't gone back a lot with them. I thought her solo album's quite good. It's on the softer side, but if you like that side of it, that's a really good solo album. And she does the actually the guitarist is in a couple of bands. He's got one that's kind of like a sort of folk rock band, who are pretty good, and then he's got another one that's basically a dance pop band, which I didn't like at all. But showing again, you're talking about schizophrenic. Like when you look at all the other projects that are in that, they don't sound like this. They're all completely different. And then Sienna does not even a backing vocal, but a side vocal. I guess she's not the lead vocalist on an album by a band called Tourmaline. And I really like that. That's a great background while you're working. Sort of, it's quite soft and I really like that one. So there's a fair bit out there now, but between the bunch of them, but it's pretty eclectic, and it's not like this album, and it's even less like the things that people like from this album, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, I see that she was in another band. I don't know how long, called the Harlocks.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. Do you know anything about the Harlocks?
No, I do remember listening to that, I'm going to say about 2 years ago or something, and it not really jumping out at me either.
Well, for us, it's 3 worthy albums. For the Patreon community, it's mostly better EPs, but hey, that's not bad either, because an EP is still, in this case, 6 or 7 songs of material.
At least now they've heard it.
What?
At least now they've heard it.
At least now they've heard it, which anybody outside of Australia had not before. So now you can go check it out with our approval. We've given it the DMO stamp of approval. Jay, can you get like a USDA stamp, but put our DMO logo on there so we can stamp record? I can go to the record store and I'll be like, stamped. We approve this record. Stamped. We approve this record.
Walk through the aisles and
yeah, exactly. I won't even tell them what I'm doing. They're like, sir, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm stamping. This is DMO approved. Don't worry. So I need you to leave.
We're official.
Yeah. This is all legal. Don't worry. We have, I have a PhD in rockology.
Rockology.
Yeah.
Well, with the DMO stamp, maybe it can now get released in America, and it can be renamed the album. So it's Love Outside Andromeda, and the album can be Love Outside Love Outside Australia.
There you go.
Like it.
I wish we had the drive, the ambition, and the money to re-release records that had never came out in the United States, but we're not going to do that because I don't have the energy of a young go-getter who would want to put all the work into digging up the rights and re-releasing records and all that kind of stuff. So maybe somebody's out there. Maybe there's a label out there. There's need to make Numero Group, but for this kind of stuff. Numero does all those great reissues of box sets and various artists. So maybe we can get a similar thing going. Not me though. I'm tired. Gavin, thank you again for bringing another interesting record to us. I think we're going to do another one of these this year later. I think we got one more coming up.
Non-Australian. We're going the full metal.
The full metal.
How many non-Australian albums have you brought us?
I think when it was just me suggesting as opposed to being on, I think I did a few. There was, and we did Faithless last year or the year before.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
I'd say, but I probably started off at about 30%. It's probably drifted down to about 10, maybe at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a few.
Yep.
Can we get do a statistical analysis of Gavin's picks somehow? Probably should be keeping track of all this. Probably
we have a lot of them, but Gavin, you made so many before we were record keeping.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I've now managed to get more picks reviewed than you have.
Oh,
you don't get to do many picks these days.
Honestly, you probably lead over us because although we were picking at the beginning, we turned it over to the PayPal picks pretty quickly to pay our bills, to be honest, because hosting's not cheap. And then once the PayPal picks came in, we kind of like lost our ability to, and then we turned it into Patreon. And yeah, if we get like 1 or 2 picks a year, we're lucky. If anything, we get to pick the options for our roundtables or something, but we don't. That's about it.
The last couple of years, I think we picked the Diamond albums.
That's true.
That's pretty much it. There might have been one or two.
Well, the Diamond
whenever
albums
we would have like
us.
cancellation or scheduling issues or something, and there would be a gap.
Right.
We jump in with something, but
which, by the way, we're going to have the time for a Diamond this fall because the picks will be used up. So get ready. We'll be doing the Kid Rock album probably.
We're running low.
we got to do Devil Without a Cause.
I think we're getting low on the.
Are they really? We're getting into the zirconium end of the diamonds.
Yeah,
they're not quite the same quality. Great talking again with you, Gavin. And thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us, our Friday evening. And we're going to wrap this up by saying, if this episode brought back good memories and positive vibes, join us at digmeoutpodcast.com to explore our free archive of over 850 episodes, history of the band posts, and weekly new release roundups. Want more? Paid subscribers unlock bonus podcast episodes covering 70s, 80s, and aughts rock, new release reviews, and access to our private Discord community. That's digmeoutpodcast.com. And while you're there, suggest an album you think deserves to be featured on a future episode of Dig Me Out. For Jay, I'm Tim. We're out, and we'll be back next time with another episode. Dig Me Out.